It's ET Now, with the India development debate. I'm Sandeep Gurumurthy. Joining me is my colleague Supriya Srinath. And straight to the big debate tonight. It's a bitter start to the second half of the budget session. Both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha witnessed acrimonious scenes leading to the adjournment of both the houses, with the ruling BJP and the Congress playing the blame game over the mega bank scam involving Nirav Modi and PNB. The arrest of Karti Chidambaram in the INX Media case added the fire, setting the stage for a big battle between the Treasury and opposition benches. The Congress accused the government of selective political vendetta over Karti's arrest, while the BJP is maintaining that the former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram must now provide an answer. Even NDA allies like the TDP are making things difficult for the government, seeking more fund outlay for Andhra Pradesh.
The BJP is still in a celebration mood after the resounding victory in the assembly elections in the northeastern states has gone on the offensive, much to the displeasure of opposition parties like the Trinamool and also the left. The BJP President Amit Shah's statement that the next battle will be fought in West Bengal and Kerala has brought the opposition parties together. Given the heated political atmosphere, the second phase of the budget session is unlikely to see any meaningful business, keeping in balance the fate of key legislation like the Fugitive Economic Offenders Bill. The big logjam in Parliament and what it means to the economy at large is a big topic of discussion right here on the India development debate.
And joining us on the show this evening, we've got Syed Zafar Islam, national spokesperson of the BJP, Mohammad Khan, spokesperson of the Congress, Ghanshyam Tiwari, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, and the two experts on the show, Neerja Chaudhary, political commentator and columnist, and Sagarika Ghosh, consulting editor, Times of India. Thank you all so much for joining us on the show this evening. Let me start with you, Zafar Islam. The PNB scam is an issue that's sort of caught the imagination of the entire nation, and every citizen of this country has reasons. Is it too much to expect that lawmakers of this country can get together and have a meaningful debate on an issue as serious as the PNB scam? Is it too much to expect that to happen in Parliament?
Well, you're right. It's very important for all of us to realize that the lawmakers have certain responsibility towards the nation. It is very unfortunate that a lot of bills are outstanding in the Rajya Sabha purely because the ruling party does not have the enough representative or does not have the number to pass those legislation, and that's why most of the bill gets passed in the lower house, gets stuck in the upper house purely because we do not have that kind of number to pass those legislation. But important for us to realize as a nation that bills like anti-swindlers bill, or for that matter any legislation which will impact the nation and the people of this country positively, that should be passed, which safeguard the interests of a common man, must be passed, and no politics should be done. But unfortunately, the principal opposition party, Congress, and many other opposition parties are not behaving with sincerity and responsibly. I think they must understand that they have some certain responsibility towards the nation, and they must respect. They are lawmakers. They are lawmakers for a certain period of time, and that certain period of time should be the Parliament should transact business and pass those legislation which is important for the welfare of the people. Like, for instance, the Talaq bill, that is also stuck in the. It has been passed in lower court, but lower house, but it has been stuck in the upper house. Likewise,
Zafar Islam, I get your point there.
If you see the outstanding bill in the Lok Sabha and outstanding bill in the Rajya Sabha.
Okay, Zafar Islam, I get your point there. You will continue to blame the principal opposition. The truth of the matter is that your own MP, Vinay Sahasrade, called for suspension of today's business. So it wasn't just happening with the principal opposition, it was happening at the BJP's front as well, and which is why we are making this big question to both political spectrums of this country, that have you lost the will to legislate, and is that too much to ask for? But Mohammad Khan, let me ask you, you were granted permission by the Speaker of the House to conduct a debate on the fraud in PSU banks, and yet the Congress party chose to refuse to vacate the well. You did not do so, and you insisted on a Prime Minister's explanation. What explains that stance? You were given an opportunity to have a meaningful debate that would have perhaps brought meaningful solutions on the table, that perhaps would have made people aware of how and big the rot in the PSU banks is. But you chose not to do that. You insisted on the Prime Minister's explanation on this entire issue.
Well, Supriya, the answer lies in your question. This is a government that has prided itself on the fact that it has strong leadership. There is only one man in this government who seems to have any power and accountability. The rest are just straw men in an empty cabinet. Therefore, it is the Prime Minister's duty to answer these questions. Far more illustrious prime ministers than him, starting from Jawaharlal Nehru, have stood up to strong questions and have answered them and have had the patience to listen. Why does our Prime Minister, who so happily addresses the nation every other Sunday in Man Ki Baat, shy away from listening to these questions on the floor of Parliament, which is what he was elected for, and answering them? It is not simply enough that he delegates ministers of state or other people who have no control over the situation. If the Prime Minister is indeed a man with a 56-inch chest, then surely it is not too much to ask that he answer these very legitimate questions. We will settle for no less. These last 4 years have shown us that a Prime Minister is quick to take credit for the smallest things, whether it's by the armed forces or by the Supreme Court. Well, in this case, the time has come where he must answer. Therefore, I am sorry, but I think we will not settle for the fact that spokespersons like Mr. Islam, etc., have to defend these briefs when it is the Prime Minister who has put them in this predicament.
No, you know, the fact of the matter is, on the first day of the session, you could have had a dialogue, a debate, a conversation, taken pot shots at each other for all. We would like to see what do leaders of the Congress party make of the PNB scam. How could a scam of this magnitude be perpetrated under two political regimes? There are questions that people of this country want to know. Ghanshyam Tiwari, in every issue dragging the Prime Minister, I am asking him to give an explanation. What that does is you take an extreme position that leaves very little scope for finding any sort of middle ground, and that's why we just don't seem to be making any sort of headway, Ghanshyam Tiwari.
Well, if you look at the way this scam has unfolded and the way the government has responded, this is a textbook case of bad response by any government. I am a student of public policy, and I say with some experience and learning about this matter. The government, when the first response from this government came from the defense minister, who said, I'm speaking like a political activist of BJP. Does that, we hope this government, which is apparently so powerful, the finance minister has not addressed a single press conference on this matter. Since the time the scam broke out, the government is busy either sensationalizing the idea of scam so that it could be pasted on someone else, or trying to prove that this scam was a UPA 2 scam that somehow extended. Even today, Ravi Shankar Prasad doing a press conference was a meaningless exercise on the same tune. If the government was truly accountable, by now it would have shown that accountability. And when the matter came to the Parliament, the opposition is right now absolutely desperate to represent the voice of the people to a very high-handed authoritarian like government that does not want to answer a basic question. Why were you sleeping? Why did you let this man slip away when you were already accused of letting Vijay Mallya slip away? What has changed from the Vijay Mallya days to Nirav Modi days?
All right,
why did you let Mehul Choksky call him Mehul Bhai at your own residence?
Right. No, I'll come to the fugitives who explain, who have, escaped from India and all of that when I'm discussing the Fugitive Offenders Bill. But a very quick question to Zafar Islam before I move on to the experts on my show. And Zafar Islam, a minister of your government tells the House that it started under the UPA. Now, my question is, can such gross misuse of public funds be reduced to an argument as simplistic as that? You've been in government now for 4 years. Yes, you can blame the UPA for the scam being started, but what about your own actions? What have you done in the last 4 years? How long back will you keep looking at the UPA and keep blaming it for the scam that it started then? What did you do from 2014 to 2018 to stop this scam and to stop Nirav Modi from fleeing this country?
Well, let me respond to that, and I will respond to all the questions you have posed to me and my government. First of all, the Honorable Minister has very clearly stated that this has happened since this was happening since 2008, and the real architect of this was not anybody from Bharatiya Janata Party, or for that matter during our government. It happened during UPA government with the support of some political party, the party representative from Congress, and the political interference. But having said that, what is more important, that we have taken a lot of initiative with the dark period in the banking, Indian banking post-liberalization was between 2008 to 2013. And who was ruling at that time? It is UPA. They have to take onus that what did they do for the nation. In fact, they have compromised with every single possible option that was available with them, just to just to make some money immediately. And it is very evident from the fact the kind of loans they have sanctioned during UPA 2 between 2008 to 2013. Every loan you just go and see whether the security cover was there, whether the
Syed Zafar Islam, but that does not answer the fundamental question.
Whether the cash flows have been
So, Syed Zafar, allow me to interrupt you. I'm
coming back to that.
I don't want to reduce this debate to UPA did this, NDA did this. I hear you. Let me take it to my panelists. Let me ask a simple question to you, Shagharika.
I'm not saying that. I'll just let me respond to that. Let me know.
Quickly, 30 seconds.
I'm coming back to that. All I said that if you just discount the cash flows, 40% loan was sanctioned, where if you just discount the cash flows, projected cash flows with the discounting rate, you will not, the EBITDA level is negative. That suggests that all those projects,
give me 30 seconds.
Project was sanctioned during UPA 2, knowing fully well they didn't have enough cash flow to service those debts. But away from that, our government have taken initiative. That's why from 22% credit offtake, it has come down to 4%.
Zafar, I have to interrupt you. Zafar, I have to interrupt you. I can't have.
Ensure that no such loans are.
Okay, Zafar, I have to interrupt you.
30 seconds to respond.
Zafar, no, Mohammed Khan will come to you. Let me take it to two experts on the panel who've been waiting patiently as the politicians have hijacked the show. That's something I usually don't like. So, Shagharika, coming to you first. And
not
you know, looking at, not the
politicians.
spokespersons. Fair enough. Shagharika, looking at this sort of narrative, and one gets a feeling that we're unlikely to see any meaningful dialogue or debate on the issue of PNB fraud. It's going to be reduced to this tutu meh to UPA blaming the NDA and NDA blaming the UPA. And frankly, there is and is it partly because political parties across the spectrum have much to answer for the state, for this fraud in the first place, and for the state of India's PSU banks?
Absolutely, Sandeep. What is happening to India's PSU banks? What is happening to the watchdogs? 12,600 crore of public money has been lost. Does the government and the opposition not at least owe the country a proper debate? What is going to be done? How are the watchdogs going to be empowered? What steps are going to be taken to get this money back? Are we going to see Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksey come back to India? Are they going to be brought back? I mean, this blame game is frustrating. It is horrifying. It is such a terrible injustice to the people of India who have lost their money. I mean, but the highs and lows of politics, Sandeep, is that, you know, just 48 hours after the BJP won that stupendous victory in Tripura and has formed governments in Tripura, Nagaland and in Meghalaya, we now have the parliament completely deadlocked. It's a gridlock. It doesn't look as if the government is interested in passing any bills or any kind of legislation, and it doesn't look as if the opposition is going to let the parliament function. You see, in many ways, this government simply does not see its political equity in parliament. It sees its political equity outside parliament, in winning elections, in the election machine, and the big victories that it is winning. Its political equity does not lie in parliament. So let the opposition shout and scream, let the opposition disrupt parliament. The government simply is not going to reach out or not going to create any kind of governance through parliament. For the opposition, it's the opposite. Their equity is only in the Rajya Sabha. That's the only place where they can raise their voice, because they're outside parliament. They have no equity. They're being driven out state after state by the BJP election machine. So the Rajya Sabha is the only place where they can raise their voice, create disruptions, create politics. So in this sort of battle to shift the narrative, there is no focus on the real issue. The BJP wants to shift the narrative away from the Nirav Modi scam. The Congress wants to bring it back to the Nirav Modi scam. But I just want to raise a point about the Telugu Desam MPs here. You know, the TDP MPs have been agitating for special status for Andhra Pradesh even in the previous session. Even in the previous session, they disrupted the House. They wanted the special status for Andhra Pradesh. They wanted the financial rewards. Now, the question has to be asked that what has the government been doing for Andhra Pradesh?
Sagarika, that's exactly the point.
Naidu is a crucial ally. He's a crucial NDA ally. Why has the government not addressed the concern
Right.
of the Telugu Desam MPs?
No, Sagarika, that's a point we would like to raise in the debate, that it's not just the opposition, but allies seem to be a disgruntled lot as well. We'll come to that in just a bit, but there's an important point that you raise about equity. The government's equity seems to be lying outside of Parliament. For the opposition, the equity is all restricted to the Rajya Sabha. They have very little equity outside of this. Neerja Chaudhary, do you agree with that assessment on equity?
I think, I would put it slightly differently. I think there is nothing wrong if the opposition demands that the Prime Minister of India make a statement on the whole Nirav Modi case, the scam, being the PNB being defrauded of huge sums of money, Modi and Choksi being allowed to go away. The opposition would not be worth its salt if it did not raise those demands. But why should Parliament be drowned in din? Why cannot we have the opposition mount a good, vigorous debate with the cut and thrust of, that we've seen in the past in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? Put the government on the mat, make them accountable. But to drown everything day after day, run into the well, shout slogans, hold placards, there is a place for that in the streets of India. Let the opposition get a lakh of people outside in Delhi at boat club and do all that. But inside Parliament, you have to debate. You've got to hold the government accountable. You've got to pass laws. You cannot mix up these two roles which we see happening. Of course, it suits the BJP and the government for the opposition to be doing that. They don't have to answer difficult questions. So I find this, we've discussed this ad nauseum, parliamentary functioning, and people are really getting very tired, very fatigued, very cynical about the way our parliament is functioning. That's not going to be very healthy for our parliamentary democracy. So I would say, yes, the government could very easily, having won these stupendous victories, take the bull by the horn. And after all, these are systemic things. This is a systemic rot. The banking system is a mess. It's not only one government that's responsible for it. And somebody else said, yes, the country needs to know how the government is going to put that right, how the opposition is going to cooperate with the government in doing that. Because it affects you, it affects me, it affects that last person.
Absolutely. Comment on that, Mohammad Khan. I couldn't agree more with Neerja Chaudhary there. I mean, you're actually playing into their hands by just asking for the Prime Minister to speak, by jumping into the well, by not letting the House. People of this country would have loved to have seen a heated debate on facts, on substance. Is it because there is complete lack of political accountability on fixing the rot in Indian state-owned banks? I mean, your track record when it comes to fixing governance in Indian state-owned banks is pretty abysmal. And so is it because there's a lack of political accountability that we don't want a dialogue? We're just in it to fix political blame. Is that the reason?
Well, Sandeep, Supriya and Neerja ma'am, I think ma'am raises a very valid point, but we have learned something over the last 4 years, ma'am. It is that governance and parliament is not their priority. Their singular priority is winning elections. Governance is a tier 3 priority which is to be done in a slipshod manner on an ad hoc basis. But I want to give you an example, ma'am. Before this session began, the Supreme Court, after 4 years, directed that, boss, you haven't convened the Lokpal. Please call a meeting of the selection committee. So they hurriedly called a meeting together, and Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, who's the leader of the single largest party in opposition, was invited as a special invitee without any voting rights. Madam, when they treat us in this fashion, when they pay lip service to the statutes which they helped pass, how can we not protest? I agree with you. Of course, Parliament is a function where we should all engage, but don't you see what they're trying to do? They're trying to define the terms of engagement in such a finite manner that the entire impact, the impetus of what we are saying is lost. This is a scam which has happened on the Prime Minister's watch. And Supriya and Sandeep, this is the point I was trying to make earlier. I'll make it very quickly. There is a fundamental error in the point BJP makes. When you ask them, these people left under your watch, like Sandeep was saying, 4 years you've been in power, they say the flaws happened because of auditors and the RBI. Yet the same flaws they attribute to the Congress when the Congress was in power. My God, you are either the weakest government in the history of India or you are complicit. So in other words, you're either negligent or you're complicit. Neither scenario is flattering, and they know that. This is why they're resorting to these sort of tactics. I would love, my party and I would love to live up to the higher standards of political statesmanship. But ma'am, we are the opposition. the hand of friendship has always, the conduct, the engagement, the bipartisan conduct must come from the government. That's why you have a Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. We, with 100 fewer seats than them, passed far more legislations in this same span of time. They have failed at governance because, ma'am, as I began by saying, it is not their priority. You saw what the BJP spokesperson did. He waxed eloquent about how the opposition is at fault, how the opposition is this and that. Please, if you're serious, so are we. But you're not. The nation sees that.
Okay. You know, I'm going to turn around and ask the same question to Zafar Islam. And Zafar Islam, the point that I think Sandeep tried to make and what Mohammad Khan did try and answer there is the lack of political accountability on both sides. And as citizens of this country, as taxpayers who pay to fund these public sector banks and who see the rot being so deep, my own explanation to this is that it suits political parties on both ends of the political spectrum to let this political patronage continue. So nobody wants to talk about the reforms. Nobody wants to talk about the mismanagement in public sector banks, because if they do, then it will all clean up and the political patronage will have to stop. The lack of political accountability perhaps is at the heart of this very conversation, and that political accountability is missing on both sides of the political spectrum, including yourself. What will be your defense to that?
Supriya, let me ask you one thing. Let me ask the Congress spokesperson one thing. Didn't they had opportunity today to discuss why there is a fixation that only the Honorable Prime Minister should be there? Why there is a fixation of Rahul Gandhi that the Honorable Prime Minister should present every should be present in the
Manmohan Singh's reply on 2G, Mr. Zafar Islam.
He is our Prime Minister. He is our Prime Minister.
No,
we have every right to ask him the question. That right is not restricted to school children alone.
When they have the opportunity, they do not want to avail such opportunity. They want to blame Bharatiya Janata Party time and again. But the fact that we want to have a very constructive dialogue, we want to have a very constructive discussion.
Why is our Prime Minister so afraid of answering questions?
Unfortunately, they are not behaving like a responsible opposition party. As long as they will behave like this, they will continue to suffer. And
are you behaving like a responsible government when the Prime Minister of the day, who makes the most extraordinary promises, refuses to stand up?
We are behaving a responsible government. That's why we are discharging our responsibility very effectively.
Okay, Zafar Mohammad Khan.
No, you're not.
Zafar Mohammad
No,
Khan.
you're
Let me bring in Ghanshyam Tiwari, and what I would like to have a debate on. And Ghanshyam Tiwari, let me know if a party like the Samajwadi Party would support. Will you support a debate on governance in PSU banks? Will you support a debate on whether or not the government should reduce its ownership in state-owned banks to 33% as recommended by then Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha, or at least bring it down to just under to 51%. Will you support a debate that say how can we make boards of PSU banks more accountable? How can they appoint the management teams? How can they set targets for them? How can we make CEOs of public sector banks more accountable? Will you support a debate on issues like this, or are you also going to fall into this trap of UPA did this, NDA did this, where is Nirav Modi, where is Vijay Mallya? Is that all this debate is going to be reduced to? Ghanshyam Tiwari.
See, the primary role of opposition is to hold the government accountable to their own promises and to the voices on the ground. Second is that we have to constructively move the public policy agenda forward. What you have just defined is constructively moving the public policy agenda forward. But where is the space that opposition gets to do this? If you look at last 4 years, what has been the role of Parliament in the entire setup? When BJP is very strong in Lok Sabha, overall in Parliament, they have continuously reduced the impact and the role of Parliament. The last year, they had convened the Parliament for nearly 50 days, lesser number of days than Sundays in a year. So they themselves, when the Prime Minister touches the ground on the Parliament and makes an emotional speech, it motivates the entire nation. But then he fools the entire nation by reducing diminishing the size and impact that Parliament can have in legislative process of the country. Second, the legislative agenda of the government is itself not defined. The reason the government and BJP politically tried to intervene with Chidambaram cases, they wanted to throw away the legislative agenda that this government wants to bring to the table in the final year of election. The Prime Minister has 2 hours to speak about exam pe charcha, pariksha pe charcha, exam warriors, but does not take questions on SSC scam where thousands of students are sitting outside demanding a probe. The Prime Minister has time to give lectures on economy, but does not have time to respond to the biggest economic scam that you and I have seen. This government has not held itself accountable to its own promises.
Right. Okay, just hold your thoughts there, because I want to move to the substantive part of this debate, and that is on action that the government is looking to take. Now, whatever you may say, Mohammad Khan, to be fair, the government is looking at damage control by introducing the Fugitive Economic Offenders Bill. Will the Congress party support this bill on the floor of the House?
Okay, I have very strong thoughts on this bill and I'll lay them out very quickly. First of all, this bill is an eyewash. Do you know when the bill was drafted? It was drafted in 2017. The draft's been up on the website for almost 8 months. Had they introduced it at that time, it could have actually come into force by now. But they didn't. Again, shows you where the legislative agenda and priority lies. Number two, this bill doesn't do anything that 9 other laws don't do. You can attach property under the IBC, under the Debt Recovery Act, under SARFAESI. You have inherent powers under Section 88 of the CRPC. You can immediately attach property, 151 of CPC. It has never been a problem. This is what I say to you. All of this is management. They're not really concerned about how to fix problems. Their biggest concern is, as Ghanshyam Bhai was pointing out, and the timing reeks of their intention, how do we divert attention? Every time, Supriya and Sandeep, every time over the last 4 years, this government has been cornered, it has diverted attention. Whether it be on the economy, whether it be on demonetization, whether it be poor implementation of GST, they say, oh, but look at that, ye dekhiye, wo dekhiye. This is a very weak government. And it is run by people who are not qualified. I really believe ये talent deficit सरकार है. Because the Prime Minister demonizes talent. He says things like hard work, क्या hard work में मानते. अरे भाई hard work में ज़रूर मानिए. मगर ऐसा प्रतिभाशाली लोगों को ऐसे प्रतिभाशाली लोग लाइए, सलाहकार लाइए, जिनकी सलाह पे आप rely करें. And you take the nation forward. Name one thing you have done in these 4 years.
Okay. I get that point. I need to go back to our experts, but one quick question on the Fugitive Economic Offenders Bill. And while unlike I know it is Mohammad Khan's job to criticize the bill, I think the intent of the bill is fine. One cannot fault. You could argue why did it take the government so long to introduce it? It's sort of and I like the fact that there is some sort of legislative cover that comes in the way of fugitive offenders. But exactly. That is my question. The government has not cleared the air on whether it is prospective, whether it is retrospective, and more importantly, will this help you bring Nirav Modi back?
Both the opposition parties, but you didn't give enough time.
Yes, coming to you. It's for you only, Zafar. Will we get Nirav Modi back?
No, Sandeep, there are two things. Let me respond to that. First, let me respond to that. First of all, as far as Nirav Modi is concerned, we all are at the same page that he is a fraudster and he must be brought to India and he must face the law of the land. There is no second question about it. The government is trying. The government is doing what is best can be done by any government to ensure that these kind of fugitive and the fraudster should be back in India with the support of the country where he is hiding. The government is committed to bring him back. We are trying our best, and I am sure we will succeed as well, because unlike Malia, who has a loan document which was authorized and documented by the bank itself, so at least he is a willful defaulter. In case of Nirav Modi, he is a fraudster, and I don't think that any country will support him. Once we will be able to engage the country where he is hiding, I am more than confident, government is confident that we will be able to bring him back. But away from that, you have heard the response of the Congress spokesperson. He didn't commit that we will support to pass this legislation, purely because the intent of the Congress party is to interrupt in the parliament, become a bottleneck, never support passing any legislation. And that is evident from the fact that number of outstanding bill in Rajya Sabha and in Lok Sabha. That suggests all. Because had that been sincere enough, had there been a responsible opposition parties, they would have supported us in passing those legislation which is important for the nation, but they are not. Okay. And that is what we want to bring to everyone's notice. And the more they will target the Honorable Prime Minister, the more they will suffer. The ways they are suffering, they are losing they are losing every single battle. They are fighting against us. Today, their bastion in Meghalaya also, they have lost their bastion.
30 seconds.
They will continue to lose.
Point taken. Point taken. Here's the thing, right? This is an issue that ideally we should debate with the politicians, but I'm not going to do that. No, Mohammed, I need to go to Nirja and Shagorika, who've been waiting patiently. Nirja, I'm coming to you.
No, I'm telling him
I'll come to you, Mohammed.
I'll
come to you, Mohammed. Just because I've got two very patient ladies doesn't mean that, they are the experts on the show. Let's hear their views as well. I'm coming to you, Nirja, first. And this is is an issue that ideally should be debated with the politicians, but let's keep them aside for a moment, which is this whole Karti Chidambaram episode. And, you know, while there is a court of law that's looking at it, and I guess we don't have enough time to debate the merits of this case, that's probably a debate in itself. But do you buy this Congress argument of this being political vendetta, given the timing of this particular case, given the timing of the action of the investigating agencies, the timing of his arrest just coming ahead of the monsoon, just ahead of the budget session of Parliament? Do you buy this argument of it being political vendetta, or the facts of the case are sort of compelling and that investigative agencies had to act, and a court of law has, in its wisdom, has granted, has denied him bail right now?
I think, you see, as far as the substantive part of the investigation is concerned, I think we should let that pan out. The investigation should continue. There are too many question marks on that. So when you question the timing, you are not saying that the substantive part of the charges may not be true. The timing was, certainly questions arise. Was it because the government was facing perception damage on the Nirav Modi scam? Therefore, or was it also because Parliament session was about to recommence and he would have faced flack on Nirav Modi? So this is a counter card that the government was able to play to bring the thing in now. The other thing is the arrest part. Again, I'm saying we're not going into, I'm not saying that Karti Chidambaram is clean, but to arrest him on the grounds that he wasn't playing ball with the investigating agency, it is now known that he had appeared before them for many hours. You either tamper with the evidence, there's a likelihood of that happening, or you are not going to cooperate with the agencies. And I think neither of those charges seem to hold as far as the prima facie evidence that's been presented to the country. So I would say substantive charges, as they say, the law must take its course, the investigation must go on. There are very serious charges that have been made. The country should know about it. But in terms of the timing itself, yes, I would have a question mark.
So it's the timing that is making many people question that event in itself. And Sagarika, my question to you is very simple and very direct. Is this really a crackdown on corruption, or is this yet another attempt of headline management before the budget session of Parliament convened, where PNB scam and Nirav Modi would have been an issue?
Very right, Supriya. I think, as you said, the law must take its course on the Karti Chidambaram case. He must be brought before law. He must be brought before law according to evidence. But he has been cooperating with the investigation. He's not a Hindustan leaver, as it was said, as Abhishek Manu Singhvi said. So I think, in a way, the timing of the arrest of Karti Chidambaram has everything to do with headline management, narrative management, perception management that this government is so good at. I come down to it. There is a disjunction that this government has between governance on the one hand and elections on the other. Elections is where its political capital is, that's where its equity is. It's going to get out there, win the elections on the ground with that formidable machine, sweeping victory in Tripura, victory in Nagaland, forming a government there in Meghalaya. And as far as Parliament is concerned, that is worrying. What's happening to parliamentary procedure? What's happening to parliamentary legislation? What's happening to accountability? What's happening to debate? What's happening to legislative scrutiny? I don't think the government is that interested in any of these things. And the fact of the matter is that we're going to see more and more of a gridlock as 2018 pans out, which is all going to be politics, politics, politics. I just want to add to one more dimension to this discussion. I think a pointer to this particular budget session, it is going to point towards a possible people's third front. Already we've seen Derek O'Brien has written a blog saying Modi is not going to be Prime Minister in 2019. The BJP will not cross 200. We've seen K. Chandrasekhar Rao, or the Chief Minister of Telangana, saying there is need for a people's third front. And Mamta Banerjee has also written to me. We've seen the Shiv Sena actually support the opposition on the Nirav Modi case. We're also seeing, the restive TDP MPs. We're also seeing, Supriya, very importantly, that extremely important realignment in Uttar Pradesh, where we have seen the Samajwadi Party and the Bahujan Samaj Party come together in a sort of alliance, and the BSP conceding Phulpur and Gorakhpur to SP. So I think this budget session, the second half, is pointing towards a non-Congress, non-BJP People's Third Front coalescing that we're going to see in the political landscape at the moment. Because from now on, it's all politics, politics and politics. I don't think legislation is on the table. I think the opposition will try and manage the narrative. The government is going to try and manage its own narrative. So I think as far as parliamentary process is concerned, the Indian public again is going to be let down.
Indian public is going to be let down. Politics, politics and politics. And is this budget session going to give a pointer to some sort of a formation of a third front? Is it just media sort of creation, or is there some truth to it? We're going to discuss and debate all of that in just a few minutes when we're back after this very short break. I'd urge my panel to stay with us. We're back in a moment on the India Development Debate.
Back with you once again on the India Development Debate right here on ET. Now let's talk about the pending legislation in the Houses of Parliament. And Mohammad Khan, I'm going to come to you. There's several key legislations, but there are two that really, strike my conscience. The Payment of Gratuity Bill 2017, that's aimed at increasing gratuity limit for the private sector, and the Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill to create a comprehensive legal framework for road accidents and road safety in India. Can we expect the opposition to set aside their differences and get together with the government on resolving some of these key pieces of legislation? Will we see these law in the making finally?
So Priya, the fact is that the Congress is a very responsible opposition. Of course, you bring these bills on the floor of Parliament and please debate them. But I'll give you two very short and very quick examples. One is the Aadhaar Act, where they converted it into a money bill, and you've had several debates on this topic just to avoid debate in the Rajya Sabha. Is this the action of a government that wants to build consensus? No. Number two, when we engaged with them on the GST, we came forward with 3 amendments. They ridiculed us. They made fun of us. They said these people don't understand a law which we only drafted, but suddenly, they were the experts of it. And they said, okay, fine, we'll accommodate you at a later stage. They never did. 2 of those amendments still haven't been passed. We have suffered by virtue of trusting these people. Nonetheless, it is not our ego that is at stake here. It is if they are genuinely bringing good bills, we are happy to work with them. But Supriya, the answer to your question can be answered by looking at the list of business that was published for the last session and the session before. Were these bills on the list of business? No, they were not. Also, interestingly, on a lighter note, the Motor Vehicles Act is one of the most heavily amended pieces of legislation. So, in for a penny, in for a pound, support zarur karenge. Is economic offenders bill ko bhi support karenge. But the truth is, they don't want you to engage. They want your silent, tacit approval. That's it. And finally, the example of the Triple Talaq bill, which they keep throwing in our face. It's a 2-page bill. Ask Zafar Islam how many sections it has. I promise you he will not be able to answer. The fact is, we said this bill looks weak. It is a good bill. Send it. If you want to give life to the intention of the Supreme Court, send it to a standing committee. But they did not. They turned that into a political debate. In लोगों की मंशा नहीं है सुप्रिया, मैं ये कह रहा हूँ आपसे.
Mohammad Khan, I'm happy to hear you say that you will support the Fugitive Economic Offenders Bill. I'm happy to hear that you will support the Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill. I hope your leaders in Parliament also. I hope your leaders in the Parliament follow up with action there as well. But Zafar Islam, I want you to react to the point that Shagorika made before we took into a break, which is that given the stakes, given the fact that the government seems to have far more equity outside of Parliament in the political, given its strong political machinery, that politics is what is going to take center stage, and that in general from now on up until the 2019 elections, you've got some big state elections later this year as well, that politics will take center stage, and we should keep our expectations tempered when it comes to the legislative agenda of this government.
Sandeep, there was some audio problem. I couldn't hear anything.
No, my
Can you just
question,
repeat, please?
My question was, should we temper our expectations when it comes to the legislative agenda of this government, as politics is what will take center stage from here on?
No, see, as far as government is concerned, we are absolutely serious, and it is evident from the fact that we have passed all those legislation in the Lok Sabha where we have strength. Where we do not have a strength, how can we pass those legislation? We have made it clear, not this time, every single time when the parliament begins, we have made it very clear that we want to discuss, debate every issue the opposition wants to raise. But opposition does not want to discuss the issue. They just want to see the glimpse of the Honorable Prime Minister. They can see on the screen, they can see whenever they want to see. Separately, I have seen many of the Congress lawmakers meet the Honorable Prime Minister. But what is important, that they should not have fixation for the Prime Minister. What they should discuss, the issue. An issue we are more than willing to discuss, and we have debated the issues whenever they have agreed. We have debated the issues. If there are issues where they want to flag off, yes, let's discuss, debate. Then we are more than keen to listen to them and find a middle ground before passing any legislation. But that can happen if they behave constructively, they behave responsibly, and they come across as a responsible opposition. Let me tell you one more thing. The Congress party, when they are after 17 back-to-back defeat, and they are losing ground all over India.
Okay. Zafar Islam, I'm not going to.
They feel that that is the only option they're left with. They are only left with.
All right, Zafar Islam, they say in victory you need to be humble. Maybe your party should be reminded of that. But I want to take it across to Ghanshyam Tiwari, and I will talk electoral politics because that is at the heart of Indian politics, is it not? Ghanshyam Tiwari, you know, we're hearing these voices of KCR calling for a third front, which is non-Congress, non-BJP, Mamata wanting to join in, Waisuddin Siddiqui now, you know, giving his own mandate to this. My question is a third front ever going to be possible in India, which does not have an axis of either the Congress or the BJP? And the second question is that if you really mean to take on the BJP as a formidable electoral force, why on earth in Gorakhpur do you have SP, BSP tying up and Congress putting up another candidate? I mean, what explains your unity?
Well, those are both good questions. As far as a third front is possible, an alternate front is possible, we saw on January 30th, Yashwant Sinha created a front called Rashtramanch National Forum, which he's a leader from the BJP. So clearly there is voices from across the political spectrum that are talking about a better governance that India needs. In the realm of this debate, we try to probe what is the intent of the government with respect to legislative agenda, and that question still remains on the table, that whose agenda does the government want to serve. They are not serving their manifesto. Their manifesto is a bunch of lies now, as they have not fulfilled their promises. They are not serving the agenda of their allies, as you could see TDP. They are not answering the opposition, the questions that opposition asked with respect to the Nirav Modi scam. Now, the second part of your answer, whether a third front, alternate front is possible, the 2019 election is going to be people of India versus a very arrogant BJP that has not fulfilled its promises, but would only rely on the grandstanding of the Prime Minister. Final point is whether it is Gorakhpur or Phulpur, the alliances that are coming together in Gorakhpur and Phulpur are going to be much powerful, because these alliances are coming grassroots up. It is the people on the ground who are coming together and saying that, look, we are the farmers, our ideas, our agendas are not fulfilled by this government, we've been cheated. We are the youth, we've been cheated. We are the backwards, Dalits, the poor, we've been cheated. So when alliances are formed from voices grounds up, those are formidable alliances, and you would see in a week or 10 days when the results are out, you would see how people in Uttar Pradesh speak in a tone to throw out a very diabolical Yogi Adityanath government.
Nirjab, coming to you, this index of opposition unity, this whole third front play is on the index of opposition unity. Is that grossly exaggerated? I mean, can there be an index of opposition unity that can bring together these, you know, these not really like-minded parties, other than the fact that they've got this opposition to Modi? Can they really become a formidable force? Is it just an arithmetical proposition, or is there more to it than that?
Are you asking me? Excuse me, are you asking me?
Yes, that's right, Nija. That's for you.
Yeah. Okay. In theory, yes, because even in 2014, the BJP got 31% of the vote. The rest 69 was on the other side. So if there was an effective index of opposition unity, the BJP would get a run for its money even in 2019. But that's a tall order. And this the People's Third Front that KCR has talked about is, I think, a response with the Congress not taking the initiative to get the opposition parties together. So I think this has now come from the regional parties. Mamata Banerjee appears to have given her support. Others may join in. But, you know, if you look at the national scene, can Mamata Banerjee make a difference in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana? No. Can KCR make a difference in West Bengal? No. The two states where effective opposition unity could make a difference is Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra. If Akhilesh Yadav, Mayawati and the Congress come together in 2019, that's going to be difficult for the BJP, which got 73 seats last time. If NCP, Congress, and maybe the Sena also, Shiv Sena giving tacit support. Shiv Sena has expressed his unhappiness, though the BJP is working on the Sena at the moment. They've said they will not align with the BJP for the Lok Sabha election. If that happens, yes, it's going to be tough going for the BJP in Maharashtra, and these are two large states of India. And Bihar also, if the RJD and Congress continue, that also is going to be tough because there's sympathy for Lalu Yadav building up in Bihar. But to say overall, you know, that there should be a front, I think that's going to be very difficult to create, leaving the Congress out and with no one acceptable leader who can take on somebody like Narendra Modi.
Right.
So I think the more important thing for the opposition is to ensure that in every Lok Sabha constituency there is one-on-one fight, that the opposition vote doesn't get divided. The fronts can take care of themselves after the elections.
Right, right. The fronts can take care of themselves after the elections, but there has to be a one-on-one fight if the invincibility of Narendra Modi has to be taken on. But Sagarika, do you believe the opposition, whether it's a united anti-Congress, you know, non-Congress, non-BJP front, or whether it's a Congress, SP, BSP, everybody else, regional parties get together, can they take on the ruthless political machinery of the Bharatiya Janata Party? I mean, if Tripura elections are anything to go by, it is perhaps a masterclass in political management. 48 out of 50 seats, they lose the deposit in 2013. They go back to getting a two-thirds majority this time around.
Absolutely, Supriya. You know, as Yogendra Yadav said on one of your shows, this is the BJP under Amit Shah is now the most formidable election winning machine that South Asia has ever seen. That's the reality of this election winning machine. You know, Sheshadri Chari called Amit Shah and Narendra Modi an election victory vending machine. That wherever they're going, they're just creating election victories. So between governance, which is taking place with a hyperactive executive and Mr. Modi and the PMO and the bureaucrats, and this hyperactive election machine, I think Parliament is just getting squeezed. That, you know, I really don't think Parliament matters anymore to the government, or doesn't matter that much, because the election, as I said, the election equity, the election capital is all coming from outside Parliament. The Parliament only matters to the opposition because it's the only space left in the Rajya Sabha where they can raise their voice. But having said that, I think Nirja is absolutely right. I think a national level, you know, People's Third Front, you know, it seems like a distant possibility. Today we're hearing reports that that you know, Mamata Banerjee is trying to take the lead in forming this this coalition. But remember, it was a Mahagathbandhan in Bihar that did manage to defeat the BJP, and you know, there was the argument made that in UP, instead of a Congress Samajwadi Party alliance, it should have been a BSP SP alliance, which then could have taken on the BJP much more strongly. So it is going to have to be alliances that do take on the BJP at the seat by seat, state by state level, because we're now dealing with an election machine that is hungry, that is extremely well organized, extremely well funded, well oiled. If you look at a Sunil Deodhar, the RSS Pracharak who made possible the victory in Tripura, he's been there for years. He speaks Khasi, he speaks Assamese, he's a Northeast expert. Now, who does the Congress have of that level, of that kind of rootedness, organization? You know, as was said by an analyst, the Congress needs its Pracharaks. Where are the Congress's Pracharaks? Where are the Congress's foot soldiers? Where are the boots on the ground? Where is the organization? Doesn't have it. Yeah. All it has is shouting power in the Rajya Sabha. So naturally, they're not going to let Rajya Sabha function, because that's the only way they can actually have their voices heard. So they are only limited to the Rajya Sabha. Nationally, it's going to be difficult for a third front to kick off. Right. But I think this budget session is seeing exploratory moves towards this people's third front of a non-BJP, non-Congress kind of a front, with the Congress clearly not interested in Parliament either, only focused on Karnataka. Rahul Gandhi, we are hearing, is not even in India. He's in Italy, he's then going to Singapore. So these moves, I think, will be significant for the future.
Indeed, indeed. So there's a lot at stake at this leg of the budget session, not just the passing of the finance bill and of course several other key reform bills that are pending, but whether it will be a pointer towards the formation of this so-called third front is something we need to keep an eye out for. Thank you so much to this wonderful panel, Shagarika, Neerja, Zafar Islam, and of course Mohammad Khan and Ghanshyam Tiwari for joining us on the India Development Debate tonight.
Thanks very much for being with us. Keep it with ET Now. There's plenty of news that follows by text.